Whenever you're ready. Ready, Nick? Okay. Okay, fantastic. Okay, thanks everybody. Appreciate your patience. We're going to get started here. Just a quick housekeeping. The Open Public Meeting Statement, in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, I wish to announce. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend meetings of any public bodies at which any business affects their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the school districts of the Chatham's Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the time, date, place thereof posted in the Board Administrative Offices, sent to the clerks of the Chatham Borough, the Chatham Township, the Library of Chatham's Chatham Courier, the Daily Record, the Star Ledger, and the TAP. Peter, could you take attendance?
Here.
Mr. Del Sandro. Here. Ms. Kenny.
Here.
Ms. Ross.
Here.
Mr. Ryan.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Dr. Zhang.
Here.
Ms. Weber.
Here.
And Ms. Druhat.
Here.
9 and a student representative, all present.
Excellent. Very good. If you're able, please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. We're going to have to improvise. I think the flag was, where is it? Just pretend it's back there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sorry, the flag is out of character for Beauty and the Beast set. So just real quick, I just had a few President's opening comments related to, I just wanted to discuss the recent news on the mental health lawsuit that was in the papers maybe a week or so ago. I just wanted to clarify a few points that I think maybe folks were confused on, and maybe just go into a minute or so on, the purpose and then what we hope to gain from it. So the law firm of Corella Byrne approached us to help us draw attention to the national crisis that our kids are facing with the mental health crisis. It's in the paper every day. It's in the news. This is no secret. But because this is a legal matter and it had to remain confidential, we were not able to talk about it or discuss it or give anybody a heads up until it became public. And what I do apologize for, this was on me, what we should have done is had information ready to go at the same time that we filed the lawsuit or the complaint. So that's on me. I should have known better. I should have anticipated that. And I do apologize for that. But Corella Byrne is taking this case completely on a contingency basis, and the school district's not responsible for any money. The only outlay that we are responsible for is really just coming up with expense records. How much did we put toward some of our services and our programs? And all that information is reported on anyway, and it's readily available. We do believe that Chatham was specifically asked for two reasons, or two primary reasons. One, we've been very vocal about this for several years. And two, we've been extremely proactive in putting real resources, real dollars toward our mental health and trying to get in front of some of it and making sure that we have support for our students before something bad happens. So we think, those are the two primary reasons that we were asked to participate. And again, we've been talking about this for years. We've been diverting funds to ensure that our children have the support that they need. We know from Dr. Sorrentino's presentations that many of our students are struggling with anxiety, depression, suicide ideation, and those kids that are suffering with anxiety and depression, they're less likely to go to school. If they go to school, their performance is down. They're also likely to engage in substance abuse or self-harm. So again, we know that we're struggling with this, and our kids are struggling with it at a much higher rate than ever before. So we agreed to be represented in hopes of drawing attention to the crisis. And we also know that school districts, not just Chatham, but school districts are they bear the cost of the mental health crisis. So, we've spent a tremendous amount of money, and it's not a sustainable figure that we can keep spending year over year. So something absolutely has to change. And because it's drawing so much of our resources, it's directly affecting the school district's ability to fulfill its educational obligation. And again, it's no secret, anybody that has kids or nieces and nephews, it's no secret that social media exasperates a lot of the challenges that our students are facing. Again, these platforms target our young people. They knowingly design algorithms that have a very harmful effect on them, and they use techniques to ensure that they stay on their platforms as long as possible to generate advertising revenue. They also use things like intermittent valuable rewards or the rewards features. Those are the things that give the kids and us a little hit of dopamine with the expectation that something good is going to happen. It's it's why we check our email 50 times a day. You're hoping that something important there. But for kids, they're much more susceptible to that, and it keeps them on much longer. And they're looking at content that they didn't ask for, but is being pushed to them. Probably one of the worst things that introduced in 2019, I think it was the likes feature on Facebook, and that's where kids are looking for social rewards and affirmation from their peers. And we all like to you wear a new sweater and you like people to say you like it, but now 300 people comment on your sweater before you even leave the house in the morning, and all that plays out in the public, and that's certainly not been great for our students. Whether they get likes or people withhold their likes, the fact that it plays out in the public forum has been super harmful to our kids. So we also know from our surveys from Dr. Sorrentino that they're definitely experiencing anxiety and depression at much higher rates. And last year, the district spent $1 million on mental health services. And this is just to address the students in Chatham, and it diverted $1 million from other instructional programs and other services. I did notice that some people had said or posted, oh gosh, this is, the parents should get more involved. This is the parents' responsibility. This isn't the school's responsibility. And that may be true to a point, but the parents can't go it alone. They're up against giants. They're up against scientific algorithms. They're up against companies that are exploiting the kids and purposely trying to undermine the parents and their ability to control some of the content that they see. So one of the things that we hope to accomplish, and we discussed this at length, I'm just pointing to Mr. Ryan because he mentioned this. What we're looking to do is for the social media companies to make fundamental changes, real policy changes, policies that support the parents. Things like stop designing algorithms that target the kids and exploit the students. Implement real age verification with penalties if they don't conform. Limit messaging and location services from strangers. 300 strangers shouldn't be texting your kid about the sweater they're wearing or that they went to Arminio's that day. And most importantly, disable the rewards features. The likes and the affirmation, and that's just a recipe for disaster. So again, the companies they've received billions of dollars in profits, and all we're looking is for some real policy changes in hopes that they use some of those profits to make the platform safer for the kids. That's probably our singular most important goal. We just want the platforms to be safer, and we want some of this mental health crisis to maybe subside a little bit. So that's the summary I had. I didn't know if anybody else wanted to. I'm trying to summarize what most of the board has said in various meetings.
Hello. I'll just reiterate from a financial standpoint what Ms. Weber said. The district spent $1 million last year. That's money that is not in the budget. We've talked at length about the budget over the last few weeks and the last few years, and it's simply not sustainable. Our current budget does not support it, and it's going to detract, and it already has detracted from real instructional programs. So we have to figure this out.
Nick, can you turn on mics?
I was just going to say that, people can try to rely on the parents to be more involved, and we need that for sure. But regardless of how involved parents are, it's still our responsibility to service students that come to us with real needs. They go to our student assistance counselors, and they're suffering. So we still have to respond to that regardless of what kind of parent involvement is in the community.
I just want to add, from an educational standpoint, there has been a change in seeing our kids, and it's trickling down younger and younger. And I think we need to get in front of this before levels of behaviors become so concerning that more and more of our kids are not going to be available to learn because this is such a distraction already that when you I'm speaking primarily to the middle and high school age, but it's getting, it's going lower and lower, and it's a warped sense of reality. So I'm of the mindset nothing changes if nothing changes, and somebody has to try to see can we make things better for not just the students in Chatham, but all students who engage in social media platforms so that they can feel comfortable going in their community, going to school, and knowing that you don't have to be liked 100 times before you walk out the door. You can go to your classes and be with your friends and on your sports teams, and that should be just enough, so.
Hi. Can you turn on Ann's mic? Ann's.
Hello, I'm Riley. I'll formally introduce myself later, but I'm the student ambassador here on the Board of Education. As much as I can sit up here and pretend I'm one of them, I am not actually on the Board of Education, so what I'm going to say is not just for them. As a high school student and someone who struggles seriously with mental health issues, I am in full support of all of this. I think it's just important to hear from a student standpoint. One, I've used the mental health services at our high school numerous times. Extremely grateful for all that you guys have put into it. But also from a standpoint that a lot of it does come from the social media aspect. And we don't, it's not like we're losing money, right? Right? I'm confirming. So I just want to say I am in full support of this. I think a lot of students are backing it. And I think it's overall a good thing and a good thing to look at.
You're right, Riley. It doesn't cost us anything. It doesn't. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. You are a rock star. But something has to change, right, Michelle? I mean, something has to change before a real tragedy happens. I mean, we hear it on the news all too often. And, this may not be the thing that changed, but we have to do something. And then this doesn't work, we'll try something else, and we'll continue until something gives in a good way. Any other comments? And Dr. Sorrentino, again, thank you for your presentations. If anybody wants to go back, Dr. Sorrentino did a lengthy presentation on a lot of our services. It was the May Board of Education meeting, and it's definitely worth another watch. So thank you again for pulling all that and staying on top of that, you and your team. I know it's a team of many. But again, this is everybody's problem, and we're all going to have to row in the same direction, and we're all going to have to work to figure it out. So let's all just support each other and affect positive change. Okay, so that was a lengthy president's comment. That's it for me for the year. Okay, perfect. So Mike, I'm going to send it over to you, Dr. LaSousa, for the superintendent's report, unless you want to add anything on the other topic.
Thank you, Ms. Weber. I'll just say Dr. Sorrentino will give another presentation with some members of her team by the end of this school year for an additional update. And if we are looking at all-in expenses, we expend more than $1 million a year in the area of mental health and support services for students. But well said from everyone, and thank you for making those clarifications. So I'm going to attempt to kill 3 birds with 1 stone and do a quick presentation that's concise about several topics that are kind of hanging out there. So if you could just head to the seats, I'll move along as swiftly as I can. That's what I said. I said the floor looks great. You're the 4th person to tell me not to fall. It would be viral if I fell into the pit. All right, thank you very much. I just wanted to quickly review where we are, give a summary status of what I discussed several months ago about the potential of reconfiguring some of the grade levels in the school district. I'm also going to just briefly touch on some additional data from the start time change at the high school, because that's something that folks have asked about, and we've passed through the first semester now. And then I'll hit up the snow days, hoping not to jinx us, because I know there's a little precipitation in the air tonight. So on the reconfiguration, which is the biggest topic in this presentation, I just want to talk about where we left off very quickly, kind of what we've been doing or what some staff members have been working on, and then kind of where we're going long term. And of course, if you go to the website, you can view the September 19th presentation, which laid out the context for all this historically, some of the data regarding enrollment and so forth, but it's a more comprehensive look at things if you go back to September 19th. Just quick takeaway, though, to review the main bullets of that presentation. The first is that we have a perennial problem and challenge in the district. I know not everyone suffers from it, but every year we have a challenge with kindergarten because we are one of the very few districts in the state that do not offer full day. When I first began as superintendent, there were about 20% of school districts in New Jersey that operated just a half-time kindergarten program like we did. And over the past 10 years or so, that number has dwindled down from 20% of districts doing that to about 5%. And all of the districts surrounding us, once we get into next year, will have full-day kindergarten, and it's something that we really need to find a way, in my opinion, to bring on board. Our enrollment has also fallen, and although that's enabled us to open some full-day programs, some full-day classrooms for kindergarten, we don't have nearly enough classrooms to do that for all students who enter kindergarten. And so what we've done is we've offered a lottery that parents can enter, and if they're selected, they can pay $7,000 per student to attend full-day kindergarten. And then we've also, alongside that, as we kind of have touched on here, we've also broadened the types of special education programming that we offer in district to meet the needs of students, which have also become more diverse over time. So the result of that is that even though our enrollment has declined, it hasn't declined enough for us to bring on a whole full day program. And where we do have classrooms, we're using them not only for the full day sections that we're running, but also for the special education programming that we brought on board in district. And this is just a snapshot of our enrollment. If you look at grades 1 through 12 right now, as 300 serving as a baseline, the grades that are closer to kindergarten right now, 1st through 4th in particular, fall below 400, and our grade levels that historically had always been above 300 are exiting the district. I also will just touch on the fact, I know a lot of folks initially had kind of a reaction when I discussed this back in September, that it's very unusual for grades 5 and 8 to be housed in the same building. I've looked at the school directory on the state of New Jersey, and I've just counted every district in the state. And if you look at districts that have both a 5th grade and an 8th grade, there's really a wide variety of arrangements. And it's not unusual at all for a 5th grade to be housed in the same school building as an 8th grade. That top bullet there, the 94 districts, I have the little squiggly in front of it because it's roughly 94. I included in that number schools that were grades 4 through 8, because there are a few of those, believe it or not, and grades 3 through 8. If you go to the second to last bullet, or third bullet, I should say, no, last bullet, grades 7 through 12, there are some districts that have grades 8 through 12 in one building. I included them in the 7 through 12 number. But the point is just simply that it's quite common in New Jersey to find schools that separate grades 5 from grade 8, and it's also quite common to find schools that house grades 5 through 8 together. And you can see that K-8 buildings, single buildings, are actually the second most common configuration. There are a lot of single buildings that house all of the students just in one spot. They tend to be very small districts, like Harding, where Dr. Donahue came from before, or urban districts that operate just K-8 schools before they send students off to some type of high school. So what have we been doing? Really, this first bullet is what has occupied so much time. The middle school team, and when I say middle school team, I'm speaking about the administrative team there, the principal and assistant principals. Their first task was really to see whether or not they could schedule grades 6 through 8 in the building while leaving enough classroom space left over to potentially bring on a 5th grade. And that might seem like a simple process, but it really has involved building a master schedule from scratch, and that required a lot of time. It takes time for us to build master schedules every year. Usually we begin about January/February and we move right on through May before we have a building completely scheduled. So the middle school has kind of been doing that in the background over the past several months. And in addition to that, we've been trying to just address certain big questions, the big questions around staffing, enrollment, when would be an appropriate time to implement a change like this. So the first thing that I can tell you from the CMS administrative team is that they received special training in Genesis with the programmers at Genesis to work in Master Schedule Builder, which is a term that simply means that they are plugging in lots and lots and lots and lots of information into Genesis and then not scheduling the building by hand, which is how all of our schools have been scheduling other than the high school. The high school's always used Master Schedule Builder. And then they've also been looking at the structure of the school as it stands now, really separate and apart from Genesis and Master Schedule Building. So based on what they've done, they've determined, they started off by using just the number 12 in terms of homerooms because we would probably need about 11 homerooms to accommodate a 5th grade in the school. So they upped that number by 1 to look at 12 total homerooms. And again, this is looking at the current grade 3, because grade 3 right now is a smaller class size than grade 8 or 9 or 10. And they have been able to identify a dozen homerooms that they could use, isolate from the building of the schedule for grades 6 through 8, and accommodate that in the school, in one general location. Not that that would be the precise location if this were to come to pass, but as kind of a baseline exercise, that's what they've done. They have not yet identified how many and which smaller group instruction rooms would be used and where they'd be located. That's ongoing, but there's a pretty high level of confidence that we could, when these numbers, these class levels move up into the middle school, accommodate 4 grade levels. That's kind of the big takeaway here. And they've been kind of toying around with this general area. I say this general area of the building. This is the first floor. There are some science labs in this mix that we wouldn't devote to 5th grade because it's important to retain science labs. They come at a premium. But this general area would be an example of a place where we could potentially locate a 5th grade. So separate from that, though, as the middle school administrative team has been working and discussing and looking at the grade levels that are on their way into the middle school, and I'm specifically talking about grades 1 through 4 right now. And we're in the process of finishing off our initial bout of kindergarten registration. Kindergarten right now, there are more kids registered than there were a year ago, but it's clear that the class size when they hit 1st grade is still going to be pretty low, likely well below 250 students. So with the lower enrollment comes a decision about how to start reducing sections at the middle school. And there are basically 2 options. So as just background, when I first started in the district, there were 2 houses in the middle school per grade level. And at some point about 15 or 20 years ago, when those grade level sizes of 300 started hitting the school, we added a house to be 3 houses instead of 2. And a house just kind of means that it's not a school within a school, but it's grouping students so that if you have 300 students and you put in place 3 houses, then 100 students attend class together, have the same teachers so that the teachers have more touch points and can kind of share students and share ideas about students and track them. And students have a little less social interaction with a broad audience because they're primarily with 100 of the same students in their classes. So the middle school is going to have to make a decision about either reducing back from 3 houses to 2 or dehousing. And the administration at present feels pretty strongly that the better option is to dehouse. Dehousing means that there's a little more flexibility with keeping staff on board and therefore keeping sections or programs and class sizes where we want them, as opposed to just dramatically lopping off 1 house out of the 3. And the reality is that a lot of our houses, or a lot of there are courses in the middle school that are dehoused anyway. So we've kind of, I don't want to say degraded the housing concept, but compared to what houses looked like 15 or 20 years ago, there are definitely more students and staff members who are not specifically operating within a single house. So moving away from dehousing, independent of any reconfiguration, is something that the middle school is working on right now and think will improve their ability to be flexible and efficient with how they schedule the school. In terms of grade 5, there are tons of questions about grade 5. Here are just a couple of the big ones. We would not be putting grade 5 into the middle school and then operating grade 5 the same way grade 6, 7, or 8 operates. We would operate grade 5 much like it's operating at Lafayette with its own schedule. One of the reasons for that is that Lafayette students, all of our K-5 students, the bulk of their day is spent really with ELA and mathematics, or at least they get a lot more ELA and mathematics instruction than they do social studies or science or world language or art or what have you. So we would want to retain the current level of instructional time in ELA and math because they're foundational, or increase it if we can. But they would not be just jumping into a middle school schedule. And of course, a final goal would be to enable the 5th grade to have access to a greater number of opportunities in the form of electives or world languages or cycles or what have you, and facilities, of course. With respect to staffing, the default assumption would be that teachers at grade levels right now would remain in those same grade levels. So our 3rd grade teachers, if we were to make this change, would remain teaching 3rd grade. They would just move from Southern or Milton or Washington over to Lafayette. Current 5th grade teachers would remain teaching 5th grade. They would just simply move to the middle school to do that. Of course, we would develop some type of process. I mean, we kind of have a process in place annually now where we go out and ask staff if they're interested in a transfer. We would do that. And then we would evaluate how well we can accommodate all staff members depending on the number of sections we're operating and the needs that we have at each school. But we wouldn't be, the plan would essentially be for staff members to remain in their current grade levels. Okay, so the other big thing with respect to all of this is when to do it, right? So we could, throw everything at the wall and try to accomplish this next year. We could go for the year after. We could go for the year after that. So this just little simple table shows the current number of students at each grade level right now. And you can see that at the bottom, grade 8 is the only grade level above 300 students. The pink rows show grade levels that contain between 250 and 300, and then you see the green ones are when we drop down below 250. So initially, back in September when I discussed this, I was looking at grade 3, that row rather, because that would be the first one to hit the middle school and really give us some space with regard to students and facilities there. However, if you take a look at our current students, and our current students are in the orange right up there at the middle school, 874 is our current enrollment. You compare that to our peak enrollment, which was 6 years ago, where we were just shy of 1,100. If you play out the 2 scenarios, keeping the middle school as a 6-8 building or moving to a 5-8 model, I think and this is based on discussions, of course, with, after all of the discussions we've been having so far this year, we have a greater likelihood of success and smooth transition if we wait to implement this plan, if assuming we would move forward, to the fall of 2025. And the reason for that is if we waited until the fall of 25, if you look at the bright yellow line, by the fall of 2025, we'll have almost 100 fewer students at the middle school, even with an additional grade level, than we did when we hit our peak enrollment 6 years ago. And at grade 6, if we didn't do that and we just kept things status quo, which of course is a possibility, by the time we get to the fall of 2025, we'll have really over 300 students fewer in the school. So it would feel even a little roomier than it does right now. But 2025, as opposed to 2024, would give us just more breathing room and flexibility in terms of the number of student bodies that would be in the school. In addition to that, it would give us 2 years of a run-up from right now. If you think about 2025, we would be developing and about to present the 2025 budget 2 years from like this month. So we'd have 2 full years to kind of try to work through everything, be in a budgetary place in advance to accommodate anything we needed. And then it would give the middle school time to work through any other scheduling adjustments that it wants to make independent of this anyway. So moving forward, aside from those big picture items, and I'm painting broad strokes, obviously, we still need to work with staff on really developing the exact instructional schedule for grade 5. We haven't yet formed committees that, in between Lafayette and middle school, maybe there's one tonight that will form organically. But working on the exact specific schedule for a 5th grade. Ditto 3rd grade and ditto full day kindergarten if we launch a full day kindergarten for all students in kindergarten. We haven't really pinned down exact room usage. I gave the general feel of what the middle school has been thinking, the middle school administrative team. We have to work through staffing, particularly not just teaching staff, but all of the support staff necessary to accommodate an additional grade level, including a younger grade level. Transportation, obviously, facilities, work-family connection, and whether we have one operating at the middle school. And of course, there are more, but these are just some of the bigger items. So broad timeline, if we keep pursuing this, which would be my recommendation to the board, then the remainder of this year, we can establish some of those committees, some of those timelines. We can keep on having discussions. Next year, we would really work on all of that. It could be kind of a district-wide professional development goal for at least a couple of our buildings. Then 24, 25 would be the year, 2 years from now, that we finalize what we want to do, develop a budget to support what we want to do, and then implement in the fall of 2025. I'll take questions once you guys come back up on stage, but just very quickly, the rest of this presentation is a little bit faster. So we did take a quick snapshot of students at the high school back near Halloween. I talked about that and did a brief presentation about the survey results from the high school students. Now we've made it through more than a full semester, so we have additional data that I'll share with you right here. So first off, in terms of attendance, I've gone back and I've looked at attendance for the past 10 years, excluding the year we were hybrid, because that one is, we know how that one was. And then charted that against so far in 2023. So actually, if you look at this, the high school attendance, daily attendance, these are students present in school, this school year was worse than the 10-year average, at least the first 4 or 5 months of the year, and now it's gotten a little bit better. When I was tracking this earlier in the year, this was true of all of the buildings in the district. So for whatever reason, there were more students absent this year. This is anecdotal, but could be because more students were sick with RSV and the flu and COVID for one period of time. But our students seem to be absent more this year at all grade levels, but this is just the high school. This is just the inverse, the exact same thing. So instead of the percent present in school, this is the percent absent. So you can see we had a higher percentage of students absent for the first 6 months of the year. In terms of being on time, though, interestingly, this year our students were more likely to be on time than they had been historically, the 10-year average. So even though our attendance wasn't as good on a daily basis for students in school, the students who came to school overall were coming to school more frequently on time. And this is just the inverse, the percentage of students absent. Red line is average over 10 years by month, and then blue line is the percent absent, tardy rather, this year. Then in terms of chronic tardyism or tardiness and absenteeism, this is just a chart showing through the first 100 days of the year. So kept 100 days constant because we've had different start times every year and we've had different number of snow days, but just counting 100 days from the beginning of the year, you can see that we've basically fluctuated between 4.7% students who are late 10 or more times and 5.8 or so. And this year we're at our lowest mark for students who are accumulating a lot of lates to school. So we've declined against the 10-year average, which is nice to see. This is the percentage of unique students receiving a D or F, so we're not counting students who might get 3 Fs and 1 D or 2 Fs and 1 D. This is just unique students receiving a D or an F through the first semester, and you can see that this year we've done a little better on that score. Now, obviously, with everything I'm showing, the start time might have nothing to do with this. It could be that because we're trying to develop more support programs for students and we've hired counselors to work with students who are struggling, that could be the reason for this. That I couldn't tell you, but we're at least this current year, we've trended in a nice direction versus the 10-year look back. Then just year over year, so this is last year versus this year. This is the percentage of the student body who has been late to class 10 or fewer minutes through semester 1. So teachers report this. From what Connor Henderson tells me, this is almost exclusively, though, reported out of the first period of the day. That teachers after that don't report as much. They manage the late to classes themselves, or they'll issue a detention or what have you. But you can see the blue bar is this year, red bar is last year. We've had a general decline year over year of students who are coming late to class, and that's 10 or fewer minutes when the day begins. So these are kids who are like 4 minutes late in the beginning of the day, and they rush into their first period without going to the office first. But similarly, students who are more than 10 minutes late to school in the morning, they are supposed to go to the main office to get a pass. And we've also seen a decline there. So overall, we're definitely seeing fewer students who are chronically late, and overall fewer students who are coming to school late, which is a nice thing to see. Okay, now on to snow days quickly. We haven't had to use a snow day yet. This is the first year since I've been superintendent, it's been 11 years now, that we have gotten to this point and we have not had a snow day. I believe it's the first time. We certainly have never had 4 days. So we have 4 days. We could have a blizzard next week. We could have a blizzard the week after, and we could use all our snow days. I understand that. However, because people are making plans now and inquiring about what could happen if this weather continues, whatever days we have remaining have to be returned as days off from school. That's part of our collective bargaining agreement. We have 180 days of school every year, regardless of what the weather does. So we have 4 days that are remaining. We have to figure out when to use them if we don't get a blizzard or other snowstorm next week or the week after or the week after that. So there are 3 general options that I kind of have in my head. The first one is to do what we always do, which is elongate Memorial Day weekend. If we elongate Memorial Day weekend with 4 additional days, that's a 7-day vacation on Memorial Day weekend. which sounds awesome until kids come back from the 7-day break on Memorial Day weekend. So I wouldn't recommend having a 7-day Memorial Day weekend. The second option is the option that I would prefer and that I will likely recommend to the board soon, which is that we have Friday off before Memorial Day weekend, and then we end the school year 3 days earlier, which would be Friday, June 9th. And that means we can't move high school graduation. We've already looked into that. We'd have to move some other year-end events, but that one is one that we can't move due to project graduation and Men in Arena. And then the third option would be to do something different, like, for example, have a bunch of 3-day weekends. This also can be quite disruptive, though, to some of what we have planned or other schedules that are in the works. So my preference right now is going to be option number 2. So we're not out of the woods yet because it's only March 6th. We're supposed to get an inch or so of snow tonight. This could all be pointless and a jinx that I mention this, but because we don't have a board meeting until April 21st, due to the spring break being the second week in April, I'm planning on making a recommendation to the board to amend the calendar at the next board meeting, with the understanding that if something goes sideways, then we would have to revisit it April 24th, or I said 21st, April 24th, and make an additional change. But I think it would be better to give people notice about what the end of the year could look like, even if we're a tiny bit early, because it'll be the last board meeting before we are at the end of April. So that's it. Thank you for listening. Could be.
Mike, on the school reconfiguration, I know you're still working through some things. Do you anticipate having a recommendation in the next few meetings or not until the end of the school year? I know your lean now is 2025, fall of 2025. Do you anticipate updating that?
I think my recommendation would be to keep working with the target or assumption that that's
Okay.
when we would make the change. And but saying that with the humility of knowing that if we hit a roadblock with transportation that's impossible, or something else happens,
Okay.
that we can't be promising parents right now who might have a 2-year-old that they will 100% have a full-day kindergarten program when 2025 rolls around.
Right, okay. Yeah, we had said we weren't going to rush that. We had to see what the numbers look like. And I like the idea of 2 full years to crunch everything. And it also gives you time to figure out how you're going to work the 5th grade into the electives, the cycles, and make sure they take advantage. I have no idea what, I mean, with AI coming down the pike, 5th grade could look completely different. ChatGPT is going to run the classroom, and then, so we're going to, the 5th grade, I think, will be ready for the cycles and the electives and some of the, maybe the higher math, and it gives a lot more flexibility if you dehouse. So we look forward to that. So definitely, I think the 2 years, gives you a lot more time, and it'll be more beneficial to the 5th graders at that time. Michelle, did you have a comment?
One, just looking ahead, what do you envision 3rd grade looking like at Lafayette? Our current 3rd grade programs at our Washington, Southern, and Milton, at least it's been a while since my kids were there, but they're not split between LA and math. Are we going to keep them to maintain their current program? Are they going to, you don't have to answer this, but this is what I'm thinking. Are they going to be on a split schedule like Lafayette runs now? So that's one of my questions. My other question has to do with staffing for the 5th grade over at the middle school. And as you had on one of your last slides, having to do with child study team, nursing, support services, special education teachers. My concern is we are in a national teacher shortage, and so we're looking to bring on more bodies, or first find them and bring them on. So, I think it was our last meeting or the meeting before where we talked about the concerns about being able to find teachers, and that's a concern. And what do those numbers look like? Once you get as close as you can with those numbers, what is the cost going to be in terms of salaries and increased costs for this? Because structurally, it makes sense, but financially, is it going to be a burden for us when we're strapped? And then my last is about kindergarten. I'm sorry to be piling on these, but everything I'm reading right now is about the state pushing for universal preschool and different programming. And I do feel that it's a matter of time before we are going to be mandated to have kindergarten. And it might be before 2025. So I don't know if there's buzz at the state level about that, but there certainly is about preschool. And I feel like if they're going to say preschool, they're definitely going to bring kindergarten along with it. So just some things that I'm thinking.
Well, they're saying preschool, but then they're saying that districts can just contract out to every local private provider of preschool that meets certain criteria. There's widespread skepticism about the universal preschool just because it's the logistical impossibility of that. And I think kindergarten is likely in the same boat. I mean, there's been a bill forever to mandate full-day kindergarten. It's not gone anywhere because there are districts that still just can't, they just don't have the space for it.
Okay. All right.
All your other questions are totally, ones that we have to work through and address. I know that there is interest on the part of some third grade teachers at least, of partnering with another and having that type of relationship that many of our Lafayette teachers have. But those are just, informal conversations, and nothing has been determined at all yet about that.
Okay. Oh, and I have one more thing. I'm wondering if we should move away from calling I feel like we are experiencing extreme weather, not necessarily snow-based weather. And I think our spring could bring, knock wood, some weather challenges with wind and different things so I think we have to consider weather days, not necessarily, we've closed our schools in October too.
Yep.
And so we have to kind of be mindful that,
Yep.
believe me, nobody wants snow days and a closure more than I do, but I feel like we have to kind of consider that something could happen in May, and we have to be on board for all changes.
Can you hear me? For the middle school houses, will those be undone before 2025? And if they're not, will unhousing them free up teachers, particularly I'm thinking like world language teachers? Will there be room to not have to hire more of them? Will there be enough periods that they have open to take on the fifth grade as well? Does that help with scheduling?
So world language teachers are not housed in the same way
Currently?
that other teachers are now. We are experiencing a challenge right now because due to the fact that the enrollment has declined as much as it has, maintaining 5 languages, is what we're operating right now, American Sign Language, Chinese, German, French, and Spanish. We don't have enough enrollment to keep sustaining all 5 languages, and that's about to get worse. So having an additional grade level there, if we could figure out how to offer some type of choice, or even if it's, right now they don't have any choice, it's 1 language, even if we were able to push in 2, would help maintain the 5 languages that we're currently offering. But again, we're early days in that discussion, but I know that right now it's just math. We don't have as many students as we did a few years ago. So having the 5 languages there, a couple of them are very
Low.
poorly subscribed, right?
Okay.
Any other questions on any of those? We actually have been at a point where we haven't used our snow days, and every time you say something is when we get a blizzard. So you jinx us every year, and every year I say, don't mention it. So hopefully we'll be able to use some of those snow days or weather days. If it's not at the March meeting, then at the April meeting for sure. So we'll look forward to your recommendation. Although, I don't mind a 7-day Memorial Day weekend. I'm only kidding. Riley, did you have any comments that you wanted to share on the start times? I don't know how it, because you were there when it was before and after.
Yeah, I think one thing that's commonly said about the start times is that kids can wake up later, so they're going to bed later. Kids are going to go to bed when they want to go to bed. There's nights where I go to bed at 9 p.m., and there's nights where I go to bed at 1 a.m. It doesn't, I feel like for a lot of kids, waking up, what time you got to wake up isn't the issue. It's more of the workload you have, what else you, sports, extracurriculars, what you had earlier that day. Personally, I'm a huge fan. I go to sleep pretty early. I'm usually in bed by like 10. And I wake up at like 7:45 and I'm out the door. I'm a huge fan. I know there are some people who are early birds, but there's, you know, you're going to find different kids who like different things everywhere. I think it's beneficial as a whole for the student body. Every kid's going to have a different opinion, but.
Perfect. Very good. Thank you, Riley. Thank you. Mike, did you have anything else for the superintendent's report?
Only a reminder that the next board meeting is at the middle school.
Okay. Great. Excellent. Does anybody else have any questions for Dr. LaSousa on any topic that was or was not discussed? No? Excellent. Okay, Peter, over to you for the business report.
Just very briefly, we're in, the planning is going on for the projects that will be done this summer. Right now, it appears we have 3 in the hopper, which will be confirmed when we finalize the budget in 2 weeks.
Okay, excellent. Perfect. Okay, and now we have a new report from Riley. So, Riley, I'll let you introduce yourself. And Peter, can we introduce a section C there for student ambassador report? Perfect, thank you.
Hi, I'm Riley, like she just said. I'm a junior at the high school. I guess what I'm involved in around town, I work downtown at Scoops, and I work at 8A camp in the summer, so I'm super popular with the 8-year-olds. I'm on the Chatham softball team here. I work stats for the girls basketball team. I'm on the Links group at Chatham High School, which is essentially like a peer group. We help freshmen get adjusted to the high school and everything. I also am a sports photographer here. I take a lot of pictures for sports teams, so you probably will see my face a lot over town. My role as this student ambassador, address accomplishments and essentially just be the liaison between students and the Board of Ed. I feel like a lot of times there's a lot of miscommunication, so just kind of the messenger between the two groups. I'm going to get into athletic accomplishments. These are all teams that won either conference, county, or state championship. Boys basketball, they were conference champs. Boys swimming was conference, sectional, and state champs for like the 5th year in a row or something. Girls swimming won their conference and their section. Boys hockey won the Menin Cup for the first time in 41 years. Although they did not win today, they did make the trip to the Prudential Center. They played Middletown North. It was a great game. That team's been fun to watch all year for students. Girls fencing won their county, their district, and their state champs. Boys fencing are county and district champs. Boys track was county champs. I believe also, this is my outline that I wrote before yesterday, they won something with the Meet of Champions. So congrats to all those teams. Performing arts, the spring musical Beauty and the Beast is coming up. So just some information about those dates and times. It's March 22nd through March 24th. On the 22nd, it's a 4 o'clock show, senior citizen show with dinner afterwards. I'm not sure a lot of details on that, but you can email Miss Irene at the high school. And then on Thursday and Friday, the 23rd and the 24th, there's a 7:30 show. And Saturday, there's an afternoon show at 1 and at 7:30. You can go to the Chatham High School website, how to purchase tickets through hometown ticketing. Academically, juniors are taking the NJPGA next week. I have no idea what that stands for. I'm sure it's great. I feel like that changes every year. Standardized tests or standardized tests. 10th graders are taking the PSAT April 19th. A lot of AP classes are beginning to get ready. Those start May 1st. Club-wise, the Students Against Cancer Club has been doing a lot recently. They had a flag football tournament to raise money through the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. There's a junior, Christina Stewart, who held a campaign. She raised close to like $15,000, I think. So there's also the fashion show coming up this Friday, run by the PTO at 6 p.m. I'm not sure if you can still buy tickets. I know those came out a while ago. And then just school improvements. This one's huge for me. They did this coffee cart at school. It's right by the cafeteria. I guess from an administrative standpoint, it reduces lines at lunch. As a student, the coffee is surprisingly good. There's snacks and pastries. It's quick, grab and go in between classes. They got different varieties too. I think they have like oat milk and almond milk. So yeah, they're killing it there. That's all I got.
Perfect. Thank you, Riley. All the news that's fit to print. Thank you. Perfect. Any questions for Riley on any of that? Oat milk or? Excellent. Perfect. Very good. So we're going to move over to committee reports. We're going to start with personnel. Ms. Ciccarelli?
We have not met since our last meeting. Our next meeting is, I don't know when.
Wednesday, I think.
Oh, it would be Wednesday. I'll be there.
Perfect. Ms. Ross, over to you for curriculum. Same report.
Sure. The curriculum committee met on February 8th, and we covered a handful of topics. The first being the update on the health and PE rollout. So February 1st, the ninth graders parents received the video links, and we only had 4 out of 300 students opt out. So we're happy with how that is going. 11th grade is next, and then K-3 in Lafayette will be having their lessons in May. We also heard about the preparations that went into place for the district's CUSAC review, which I believe happened over winter break on February 22nd. Dr. Donahue gave us an update on the K-3 literacy chats that she had at all the PTO meetings at the K-3 schools. And there is a discussion or possibly a plan to fund a literacy night in the fall. So that is in the works. Riley touched a little bit on the spring testing. I'll just remind everybody that NJSLA is also going to be happening May 1st to the 26th. And then the last part of our meeting was a preview of the reconfiguration update that Dr. LaSousa went through in detail today. Our next meeting is also this Wednesday, March 8th. So I'll report on that at the next meeting. That's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Susan. Any questions? Oh, go ahead, Dr. LaSousa.
Quick footnote that we'll do the meetings virtually Wednesday. We have some conflicts, and it'd be better if we do them online.
Okay. You'll send out a link?
Yes, if you don't have it on your, I'll make sure Phyllis sends it out to everybody.
Okay. She may have already. I just didn't check. Okay. I won't check till Wednesday. Okay, perfect. Any other questions for Ms. Ross or Dr. Donahue on any curriculum? Nope. Over to you, Mr. Smith, for finance and facilities.
Yes, Finance and Facilities met on February the 15th. We got a reconfiguration update from Dr. LaSousa, which he presented on tonight, and we started to work through the budget. We met again tonight, continued work on the budget, continued work on potential second questions, and if we need a second question or not. And we are meeting again next week to try and finalize some numbers, and we will have a presentation on the next board meeting, which is March the 20th.
A presentation on recommendation
On the
for
budget.
Preliminary budget.
a preliminary budget. Okay. Will that have the columns that we typically, it will be in this typical format? This is what it looks like and what we get and what we don't get?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Look forward to that. How are the numbers looking, Bradley?
I would say they're getting better.
Okay.
Not great,
Not great.
but
Okay.
getting better.
All right. Better's better. All right. Thank you. Mr. Ryan, over to you for policy and planning.
Policy and Planning has not met since the last meeting. However, we did receive a catalog of policies from NJSBA. We will have, of course, they don't map exactly from what we have, so a lot of work to do to determine, how to consolidate our policies, our current policies into theirs. I will say that they're much easier to read than the ones we have, which is going to be helpful for everybody. We have a representative from New Jersey School Boards coming into our next policy meeting to go over how they went about developing what they have for us, and we'll determine an action plan from there on how to swap out our policies for those.
Okay. Are you satisfied with the artifact that they provided you in order to ensure that they've captured everything, a mapping?
I need a walkthrough of
Okay.
it from them so I can determine
So not
what
yet.
they've done,
Okay.
right? So,
Okay, so we'll look forward to your next report.
yep.
You know, the concern is that they dropped one or, you know, we'll never know.
Exactly. I think we have to go through, you know, there's 9 sections. There's 4 of us on the policy committee, and we all have to take a section and try to map, you know, the new policy with our current policy. Some of the policies are mandated policies, some are recommendations, some are monitored and reported on, so we have to keep some, and some we may not, some we don't even have today.
Okay.
I can tell you that right now.
Right, oh, they don't exist today.
They don't exist today in our current policy catalog. So
There's going to be more.
there's going to be new policies, there's going to be policies that switch to the new form,
Okay,
and there's going to be edits, because some of our policies, you know, we kind of ad hoced
okay.
along the way.
Well, Mike, if you need to pull other board members in, if there's 9 sections, and let me see, there's 9 of us, if you need to, you know, if you need to pull other people in, pull other people in.
Yeah, it's not going to be complete by the end of this year, this
Okay.
calendar year.
Right,
I can't see it
okay.
happening, but
I
maybe.
mean, if you figure out a good mapping and mousetrap, and then you can kind of disseminate that to us, we could help look at stuff as well.
Sure.
So let
I
us
will.
know when you know. Okay, great. Any questions for Mike on any of that?
I'll just mention, not along these lines, Ms. Weber, but I wanted to thank you, I should have done it before, and the presidents of the association for coming in Wednesday during the break for CUSAC. The county folks were here with us for the better part of the day and did our audit, and we're following up on a couple of items, but that went as smoothly as I think we could have asked, and we appreciate your time. And Riley, there were, I think, 3 records, school records broken at the Meet of Champions. I won't go through all of them, but we did have one Ryan Beagle run a 4:12 mile,
A 4:12.
which is really fast if you're not a runner.
A 4:12.
School record.
That's crazy. Excellent, very good. Anything else on any of the committee reports? Nope, we're gonna, does anybody have anything on a liaison front?
I do.
Oh, Ann, could you turn on Ann's mic?
Just from the borough, in terms of the pilot program, which is the payment in lieu of taxes, the Borough Council was originally targeting early March to meet with the Board of Ed, but that has been delayed a little bit. The borough committees have been having internal finance meetings, and the full council will be meeting on March 13th, and after that, they expect to be in a better position to schedule a date to meet with the Board of Ed. So, Mike, if you could follow up with Steve Williams after their March 13th meeting on that, that would be great. And then while I'm on the mic, I just want to echo, as far as the athletic boosters, what Riley said. I mean, our winter sports teams had amazing seasons, and so congrats to all of them. We did miss one, our poor little redheaded stepchild sport of wrestling. As Jill and I know, nobody ever recognizes wrestling, but one of our wrestlers, Chris Gomez, who is a senior, did come in second place at the districts, and he advanced to regions, and, you know, that's huge in Chatham. Like,
Yeah.
they're combined now with Summit. We're wrestling families, and I just want to give him a huge shout out because that's just amazing. So,
Yeah, it's a great
yeah,
accomplishment.
it's awesome.
Excellent. Thank you, Ann. Any other liaison reports? Susan?
I don't have a formal one from CEF, but I do want to congratulate them on a really well-run and well-organized trivia night. 37 teams played. There were 400 players there. I went. It was really fun, and they raised $35,000 for the school district. So I want to say congratulations to them on a job well done.
Perfect. Wow, well done. Excellent, thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to approve the minutes from February 6th, the public and executive session. Lotta, I believe you need to abstain. So Michelle seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? There you go. Peter,
Duly noted, pass 8-0.
for the
801.
15th, the 15th executive session,
It's Ms. Ciccarelli, Ms. Clark, and Ms. Ross need to abstain.
okay. So I'm making a motion to move the executive minutes of the executive session for February 15th.
Second.
Mike Ryan seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
There you go.
Noted, minutes pass 603.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so we have our first opportunity for public commentary. Hearing of the citizens during the public commentary section of the agenda is an opportunity for any members of the public to be heard about issues which are or are not topics scheduled for the current meeting. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers will be asked to limit their comments to a reasonable length of time. If you could try and keep it to about 3 minutes, that would be swell. Again, the floor is yours. If we can answer questions, we'll do that after we close the public commentary session. So if you wouldn't mind introducing yourselves and sign in. Thanks. Could you get a little closer to the mic? If you can just get a little closer. I can't hear you, actually. Of course, I'm deaf.
Okay.
Half deaf.
Thank you. All right, I can hear it now. Good evening. I'm Erin Clay, fourth grade teacher at Lafayette. I just want to share a couple of exciting things going on with CEA because we always like to pump up all the great activities happening in our district. As Riley, well, welcome. You're fabulous. What you mentioned earlier about the spring musical, we just wanted to let everyone know that we have the senior citizen dinner happening before, a little dinner and a show. There are also at Milton, Washington, and Southern, the free little libraries. I don't know if you had an opportunity to see those. Those will be up and running where you can go donate books and take some along the way. We've also been raising money for Read Across America. And there is at Washington Avenue coming up on March 12th, a Chatham movie theater evening. And we also are continuing to raise funds for our food bank for local community families in need. So we just wanted to say we're continuing to work on that. And thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Lakaswitz, also speaking on behalf of the Chatham Education Association. We just wanted to thank you for keeping us posted on all of the reconfiguration process. We really hope to be considered and consulted as you go deeper into the planning process. There has been a lot of concern and questioning from our staff just because of how big this change is. And so while we really appreciate the ability to voice concerns and raise questions, we feel that real, authentic staff input is invaluable in this process to make it as smooth as possible for the students. Especially with all the focus on mental health, as you guys were mentioning at the beginning of the meeting. Removing common planning time in the houses that we were talking about as a potential impact of the reconfiguration will reduce the time that teachers can coordinate and make sure that students that are at risk or potentially at risk can fall through the cracks. And we know, that there are things that we can do to bridge those gaps, but we just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of that impact as well. And we know it was asked tonight when the dehousing at CMS would start. We've been told that it is the goal. I'm a teacher at CMS also. Sorry, we've been told that the goal is for that to happen this fall, so that we'll hopefully have time to start planning for that. Different buildings have been hearing different messaging regarding the configuration, so it's nice to get on the same page tonight with all of the information. Also, just ensuring that all schools do have a stake in this process, as it really does impact all of the schools, minus the high school. We really hope that the information will continue to be as open as it has been tonight. Lafayette and CMS showed up tonight, and we are willing and able to step up in whatever capacity you need in order to ensure that we can provide our expertise for you so that this can move forward as successfully as possible. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much for coming out. I know you've all had a long day.
Good evening, Bill Heap, Chatham Borough. First and foremost, I'd like to welcome Ms. Druitt to the board. It's always good to get a view from on the ground, and I hope that this experience is nothing but positive for you. And I will also probably see you down at Scoops Terry can vouch for the fact that, well, just like school board meetings, I'm a regular at Scoops. With regard to the lawsuit, I think every member of this board, as well as anybody that's tuned in over the past couple of years, is well aware of the fact that I have no use for social media at all. If Mark Zuckerberg died and went to hell tomorrow, it wouldn't bother me.
Ignore that.
I will give them the benefit of the doubt and say they probably started off with good intentions, but the corrosive nature of what this has turned into has overwhelmed any of those good intentions. It's just toxic. We all know that this is affecting our kids. It affects boys, but let's be honest, at the risk of sounding like a sexist pig, it affects girls. They're just wired differently. I think it would be nice if you would invite the law firm in to give us a brief presentation of what their strategy is and to tell us how realistic this suit really is. I'm not sure that you're in a position to remediate every problem that walks in the door, especially without help from parents. They have to have some skin in this game. And I think it's certainly up to parents to try and limit screen time and all of that. It's also up to parents to project an attitude of hope, especially in this Lenten season. Kids suck up information like vacuum cleaners. They watch every move we make. Every day they're exposed to a doom and gloom bias in the media. They are exposed to elected officials who act like morons. They are exposed to a climate crowd that traffics in nothing but hysteria and unfounded fear. A Howard Zinn version of history, where history is nothing but a long parade of horribles. It really is up to parents to make sure that kids understand that the glass is half full. It is no wonder after watching all of this stuff that they are anxious and depressed. So lawsuits are good, but I hope that parents get the message that they have to be involved in this as well, or I'm not sure how successful this will be. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. Any additional comments before we close public commentary? No, excellent. Okay, so there's another opportunity at the end. Mike, I just had a question on the reconfiguration. When Stephanie mentioned something, it reminded me. Will you schedule fifth grade manually and use Genesis Building Master for the rest of the school?
Yes.
Okay, and that's how you...
At least that's the plan right now.
Okay. And is there any time, do you just pull in staff members ad hoc and administrators to get feedback on various configurations, or there's no formal working committee, it's more...
So to this point, because we've been primarily just waiting, like if the middle school had informed me a month ago that this is impossible, there's no way, there's no space,
Right.
et cetera, we wouldn't have been able to move forward. So to this point, it's the principals of each school have been interacting with their staff depending on however they interact. Some principals have weekly meetings with grade level leaders or team leaders, other principals work through faculty meetings or through their building reps, et cetera. So it's been more or less informal to this point as we've been trying to just determine, can we make the next step or the next commitment to keep making steps?
Right.
And now we'll be able to put a structure in place where we do have, I know there are one or two folks from the audience who have approached me and said, I'd love to serve on a committee, I think this is exciting, et cetera, and so forth. So with the benefit of time, we can structure, we can structure committees and, levels of feedback into the mix a little bit more deliberatively or for a lengthier period of time. And then, we can cross-pollinate the buildings because we're going to need to do that between third grade and Lafayette, and then Lafayette and the middle school.
Right.
And that will probably require some time, a focused committee where we provide substitute coverage for staff members who can meet for 3 or 4 hours at a time, let's say in the conference room up the hill.
Okay.
But that's all yet to be worked out.
Okay, and the dehousing, there was a mention that it's not a decision that is in the fall yet, right? There's no
The
definitive.
middle school intends to move forward in the fall.
To dehouse?
Yes.
Okay, so that's not a rumor, that's the recommendation, to
Correct.
dehouse this fall?
Yep.
Okay, okay. I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page with messaging.
Yeah, and the biggest benefit, the argument, the greatest rationale for having houses to begin with is that it shrinks the size of the school. It enables staff members to have common planning time, to track student needs and share what works and doesn't work. Students have the same cohort of kids that they're interacting with at all times. The downside of the house system, and actually some of the feedback that's come from students to the principal of the school, is that the students would like to have more interaction with all of the students in the grade. If you fall out of a friends group or into a friends group, but they're not the ones that you typically attend most of your classes with, they view that as kind of constricting. And without limiting staff members to certain houses, it enables you to schedule the building more freely. That, of course, then means that staff members can teach multiple grade levels, which is not as common in the middle school as it is in the high school. They may be in more than one room, which is not as common in the middle school currently as it is in the high school. So there are pluses and minuses, but the intention of the middle school is to move forward with continuing to dehouse, because we've already kind of gone down that road in certain areas, and have that in place for next school year.
Okay, okay, great. And then over to Mr. Heap. I think that's a great idea. Maybe we can ask the law firm if they're willing to do a presentation on, what they hope to, what the timeline might look like, what their strategy is. I mean, if you read the complaint, it's pretty clear in the complaint, but maybe pulling out some of the jargon, it might be a nice idea to do a presentation. We've instructed Riley to ignore Mr. Heap's comment on Mr. Zuckerberg's health and homicidal tendencies. And Bill, we agree with you. And the elected officials, present company excluded. But this is definitely a war that's going to be fought on many fronts. It's not solely the school. It's not solely law enforcement. It's not solely social media. And it can't be solely parents. They can't go it alone. So we're all going to have to, help each other out. And this is going to take a village. And we're all going to have to, everybody wants what's right for the kids. Nobody wants to see harm come to their children. We're going to have to just work at it together and chip away. Do we think this lawsuit is the silver bullet? Absolutely not. It's just one more thing that we're trying, and we're going to keep getting people's attention. Any other comments or questions before we move on to the regular agenda? No, everybody good? Okay, excellent. So there's another opportunity for public comments at the end. We'll go through this quickly. If the teachers, I know you've had 16-hour days, so please don't feel you need to stay. Head out. Nobody will pay attention one way or the other. So Ann, we're going to move over to personnel.
I'd like to move action items A1 to A12 on the regular agenda for vote.
Does anybody have any questions for Ann or Dr. LaSousa on any of the personnel items? Again, these agendas are posted on Friday afternoon, so if it appears that we go through them quickly, it's that we've already looked through them. So any additional questions on personnel? Peter, would you mind?
Sure. Agenda items A1 through A12. Ms. Ciccarelli.
Yes.
Ms. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Del Sandro.
Yes.
Ms. Kenny.
Yes.
Ms. Ross.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Dr. Zhang.
Yes.
And Ms. Weber.
Yes,
Agenda items passed 9-0.
excellent. Mr. Smith, over to you for finance and facilities.
Yes, I would like to move agenda items B1 to B15 to a vote, and also wanted to highlight a few donations we have this week. Susan missed these on her CEF commentary. We have an art show grant and Coding with Mary donation from the Chatham Education Foundation, which we continue to be very thankful for. We also have a donation from the Milton, Southern, and Washington PTOs for Author Day. And finally, we have a donation of symbols Mr. Bill Sims donated a set of 2 cymbal stands, which we are very grateful for.
I'll
Excellent.
second.
Perfect, thank you. Any questions for Bradley? Nope. Peter?
Agenda items B1 through B15, Ms. Chicarelli.
Yes.
Ms. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Del Sandro.
Yes.
Ms. Kenny.
Yes.
Ms. Ross.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes?
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Dr. Zhang.
Yes.
And Ms. Weber.
Yes.
Agenda items passed 9-0.
Excellent. Ms. Ross, over to you for curriculum.
Yes, I'd like to move agenda items C1 through C4 for a vote.
Just a quick question on the 3, the interns, the school interns, the psychology intern. Will they be working with staff members?
They will be working with staff members. I don't know if Dr. Sortino wants to elaborate on that.
What does that look like, Dr. Sortino? I see they're at the Milton and Lafayette.
Yes. The interns work with either school counseling department and/or our school psychologists. They typically do a pretty long intern where they experience a ton of different things like counseling, evaluation, parent meetings, et cetera. And the goal is that eventually we might hire one of them if they've
Okay.
done a great job.
And how long does an internship last?
Right now, we have 1 full year intern. Next year, we'll have 2.
Oh, wow. Okay. A full year? Is that required for a full year? Wow. No wonder it's hard to get into that field. That's a lot of time, a year. Excellent. Does anybody else have any questions on? We can't say.
Oh.
We generally don't post it for security so that where our kids are located.
Where it's going, when it's going to be. It is,
Well, he can ask Mike.
we know where it's.
I won't say when it is, but it's to New York City, and they're going to Hamilton, I think,
Nice.
as a reward for what they.
Ann's volunteered to
accomplished.
chaperone.
Sorry.
Excellent. Okay, very good. Go ahead, Peter, if you wouldn't mind.
I didn't pick up a second.
I thought Mike.
Oh, sorry. Agenda items C1 through C4, Ms. Chicarelli.
Yes.
Ms. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Del Sandro.
Yes.
Ms. Kenny.
Yes.
Ms. Ross.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes?
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Dr. Zhang.
Yes.
And Ms. Weber.
Yes.
Agenda items passed 9-0.
Excellent, very good. Mr. Ryan, any audibles or anything you want to add on policy?
Nothing that haven't already said.
Okay. Just a quick question on the policies that you mentioned. Do you think that'll be big bang, you'll implement all of them, or do you think you'll do section at a time as you finish them, or unknown at this time?
Still evaluating that. I think we probably have to implement them all at once at this point.
Okay.
From what I can tell right now.
Just do a straight cut over? Okay.
Yes.
All right, I was just curious.
After edits.
Right, okay. Understood. Got it, thank you. So now, board business, does anybody have any topics they want to bring up? I just want to make sure, Mike, folks are clear on your recommendation. If you still have 4 snow days at the end of April, you're proposing, because right now the calendar reads that Thursday and Friday before Memorial Day are days off. Under your proposal, that will only be Friday, not Thursday. I just want folks to be aware of that in case they've already made plans to go away, anticipating, not using up all the snow days. So your proposal is to pull that Thursday back, make it a school day, still have Friday the 26th off, and then take 3 days off at the end of the school year,
Yes.
provided we still retain all 4 snow days. Okay, I just wanted to say that out loud again, because right now on the calendar, those days are scheduled as days off if we have unused snow days.
Yes, and just as a minor point, hypothetically, if we arrive at this point, so then those 3 days in June, the Friday before Memorial Day weekend, and then the 3 days in June, schools would be closed.
Right.
The high school, because it can't move graduation, will still need to have rehearsals for students. So the high school would, in some, skeleton fashion, like the administrators, Leslie Chapman, who is the
Senior.
the architectural wizard of graduation, she would need to be in work while the rest of the district is off. So then those select few folks at the high school that would have to be on site Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday we would need to close the high school a different day or stagger their schedules later on in June so that they are made whole by the,
Okay.
by the fact that they have to be in on those 3 days.
Okay. And you also have to make sure that you have enough staff at graduation.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of staff like to go anyway if they're around.
Yep.
But it's nice to see the staff on the edges of the, the chairs for the students.
Dr. LaSousa said certain members of the maintenance crew and the high school custodial crew will also need to alter their days off because without them, there would be no graduation.
Right, okay. Yep, understood. Yeah, that's a big undertaking. Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure that folks knew what we were considering, that Thursday before Memorial Day would be a school day, but still a getaway day on Friday. Okay, great. Any other items? We have an executive session.
Quick executive session, no action will be taken.
Oh, no action will be taken. Okay. Not in here, in the other room.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so no action will be taken, so I'm going to make a motion. Oh, we have another public commentary. I'm sorry. I forgot about that. We have a second opportunity for public comments, if anybody would like to make a comment. Okay, seeing none, excellent. Okay, so I'm going to close the public meeting, and we're just going to go into a quick executive session. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Appreciate all the teachers coming out. Please drive safely, and hopefully we will not get the snow that Mike jinxed us on. Thanks a lot.